This is Sean Thomas Radcliff. Welcome to another episode of Preservation Oaks. In this series, we introduce you to professionals from museums, cultural, genealogical, and historical societies across the United States. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Once again, we have another fantastic program lined up for you. In this episode, we welcome Mr. Keith Hudson, President of the Flat River Historical Society and Museum located in Greenville, Michigan. Since 1967, this organization has been dedicated to preserving the rich history of Greenville and Montcalm County. The Flat River Historical Museum, which opened its doors in 1972, celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2022 with a grand celebration and received the 2022 State History Award for Local Societies from the Historical Society of Michigan. With captivating exhibits and intriguing stories, this museum offers something for everyone. By the end of this episode, you'll be inspired to join their mission to engage people with the history of Greenville and the surrounding area, bridging the past with the present and future. I'm Sean Thomas Radcliff, broadcasting from Salt Lake City, and this is Preservation Oaks, the original talk program on Microstream Radio. We highlight museums, cultural and heritage institutions, associations, historical and genealogical societies, and history-focused media creators across the United States. Our main platform is preservationoaks.podbean.com, but you can find us on nearly all podcast platforms as well as Rumble, Getter, Minds, TikTok, Facebook, Odyssey, and YouTube. Wherever you listen, we greatly appreciate your likes, comments, follows, and subscriptions. If you're interested in being a guest on our program, or if you have any questions or comments, please email us at preservationoaks@gmail.com. A heartfelt thank you to everyone spreading the word about our program. Your support helps us reach more people with the incredible stories of Preservation Oaks. By sharing our message, you're highlighting the dedicated heroes who protect and preserve our history. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. We don't ask for donations from our listeners. Our mission is driven by our passion for showcasing the amazing work of organizations in our Preservation Oaks community. These folks are the true heroes, working tirelessly to keep our history alive for everybody to learn from. Our Preservation Oak organizations and their incredible volunteers are the superheroes of our cultural landscape, preserving our heritage with passion and dedication. And guess what? You can be a hero too. Every time you share our program, you're supporting these incredible efforts and ensuring our history is accessible to all. Let's keep this energy going. Spread the word, support your local museums or historical groups, and together we'll ensure our vibrant heritage is protected for generations to come. Thank you all for being a part of our amazing journey. Hey, also stay tuned for our next episode of Preservation Oaks. We're thrilled to feature the Ethnic and Mining Museum of Magna, Utah, and chat with President Kevin Hardman and Vice President Zach Hewlett. This remarkable museum showcases artifacts from the peak of the mining industry, offering a glimpse into Magna's rich history. It's the perfect spot for visitors to explore the past and understand how mining shaped the local economy. But that's not all. The museum also provides a fun and educational experience about the culture, customs, and history brought to life by the diverse ethnic groups who built this area. After a car accident caused significant damage over a year ago, the museum underwent major renovations and reopened in April 2024. So now is the perfect time to feature this fantastic place on our podcast. Don't miss this episode. Listen in to get to know and support the Ethnic and Mining Museum of Magna. All right, that all being said, let's get this show snapping. Okay, here's a brief biography of our guest today. Keith Hudson has a deep passion for trains and local history. In the early 1980s, he dedicated considerable time at the museum researching a multimedia project about the history of the railroads in Montcalm County. He retired after 35 years as a band and orchestra leader and joined the executive board of the Flat River Historical Society and served as president for several years in the mid-1980s, stepping down by 1990. In 2012, after attending a concert at the Fighting Falcon Museum where his wife Jean and Flat River board member Carolyn Garlick performed, Carolyn invited Keith to rejoin the board. Now retired, Keith had the time and encouraged Jean to join as well. By 2013, he was president once again. Keith shares, "What I love the most is doing research into the rich history that Greenville has and sharing it with others." All right. Please join me in welcoming Keith Hudson to the program. Welcome, Keith.
Well, thank you, Sean. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You are most welcome. Thank you. What are some must-see attractions in Montcalm County for a first-time visitor?
Well, our Flat River Historical Museum, of course, and we have two other museums in the city, the Fighting Falcon Military Museum, which has excellent displays, and also our Danish Cultural Center, which highlights our rich Danish heritage. We have one of the nicest walking bicycling paths in Michigan, the Fred Meyer Flat River Trail. It circles Greenville for about 8 miles, following the Flat River, Minoka Lake, and Baldwin Lake, all in the city limits. It goes north, connecting to a Fred Meyer Heartland Trail that goes 42 miles, and going south, it connects 22 miles to the south to the Fred Meyer Flat River Valley Trail, and that goes another 41 miles to the Fred Meyer Clinton Ionia Shiawassee Trail. Now, those are hidden gems. And our Baldwin Lake, which you can drive down, but you can't see it from the main roads. But if you just head south, it's right in the city limits, and you drive right along the edge of the lake the entire way.
Wow, I could go like 80 miles on a bike trail.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bicyclist too. That's cool.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever come up here, you need to come out.
I used to do 30 miles a day.
Okay, I just did 35 last Sunday.
All right, way to go. Way to go. Don't you love it?
Oh, it's like, it's fun when you're a kid, and it's still fun as an adult.
Absolutely. Now, Keith, do you know any legends or ghost stories from Montcalm County?
I certainly do. The most famous legend in Montcalm County is about Chief Wabasis. He was a chief of a local Odawa tribe, and he was murdered because he was thought to have buried gold that belonged to the entire tribe. Wabasis Lake and Wabasis Creek are named after him. And in Greenville, we have the legend of Princess Minoka. Her story was told to the children of our earliest settlers by Native American children. And they said the story had been handed down for generations. So it may have some elements of truth to it. The story kind of follows a Romeo and Juliet theme. Minoka was a daughter of an Odawa Indian who lived on Baldwin Lake. She had a lover, Wanada, who was forbidden to see Minoka due to a family feud. Well, he was caught near her, and as he was paddling away in his canoe, Minoka's father shot him with a bow and arrow. Minoka paddled her canoe out to her slain lover and grabbed him, threw her arms around him, and threw them both overboard to die in the lake together. And this lake now bears her name. Every town has their own ghost stories. They're very intriguing. I even have a program detailing 6 ghost stories in the Greenville area.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. You do that on Halloween, or you do that anytime?
You think I'd do it mostly during Halloween, but I did one back in the spring for a club, and then I think I have another one coming up before Halloween.
Cool.
We have had paranormal investigators, I guess, go to our museum, but they didn't find anything. I didn't think they would. But I interviewed a lot of people, and they're very passionate about it. Whether you believe it or not, these people believe what they saw.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes it entertaining, I guess, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's so interesting to think that it might be, what they might be relating might be true in some way, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading some on the paranormal and the ghosts in your county, and yeah, there's quite a lot of activity if you believe what you read.
Yes, yeah, and hotels nearby,
Wow. Yeah, very cool.
especially. Yeah.
So, what's your favorite exhibit at the Flat River Historical Museum?
Well, you would think it'd be the railroad exhibit, which I contributed most of the display items. One of those is a steam engine whistle made in Grand Rapids for the Paramarquette Railroad. It was factory made, and about 30 years ago, I was able to hook it up to a steam tractor that a friend had. And we played with that for like 2 hours, and I had a small cassette tape recorder along and recorded the sounds of the whistle. Well, when we set up our new exhibit, I realized I could now digitize a small section of that and have it activated by pushing a button.
Ooh.
So people can now hear the actual whistle that could well have been on a locomotive that came through Greenville. However, my favorite place, though, is our small replica of our local movie theater called the Silver Theater. It was torn down here in Greenville in 1988. Well, we filmed 5 local actors dressed as famous people from Greenville's past. Each one gives about a 3-minute talk about early life in Greenville. And their videos are projected on a curved scrim from behind, giving it a near life-size 3-dimensional look, similar to a hologram. Other people might call it's similar to a Pepper's ghost. We call it Ghosts of Greenville's Past. And on the walls of the theater, we have framed displays of Greenville natives that went on to become movie stars or had careers in the film industry. It's pretty amazing that in little Greenville, we turned out quite a few people who made a big name for themselves in Hollywood. And we had 3 movie stars, actresses, and the most famous probably was Vivian Martin, who headlined 41 silent films. I mean, she was the main attraction. According to Movie Magazine in 1918, Vivian Martin was right behind Charlie Chaplin in popularity. And her very first film from 1914 survives and has been made into a DVD. So I love talking about little old Greenville that has produced so much talent. One of our alumni is Jim Blinn, who was a true pioneer in CGI, computer graphic imaging. He really was instrumental in creating the software to produce realistic imaging. So in addition to musicians, songwriters, producers, production people, Shane Mahan is one of the most well-known special effects studios in Hollywood. He owns that studio. He designed the creature for The Shape of Water, and he worked on most of the big blockbuster films such as Jurassic Park, Iron Man, the Avatar series, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the list goes on and on. Another favorite exhibit is part of our John and Deborah Green exhibit. They were our first white settlers here, and we actually have hair from Deborah Green woven into what is called a hair braid memento. And we have a number of these, but the one we show is of her dark hair braided in the shape of a heart. Inside that heart is a smaller heart from her daughter's blonde hair, and that was sent to her grandson with a poem. That's pretty cool that we have actual hair from their founding family.
That is very cool. Very cool. And you have their pictures too. That is very cool.
Yes, we
that
do.
You have the actual pioneers that started the town, their pictures. Oh.
Yep, their original photos framed.
I just think that's wonderful. Yep, very cool. Now I understand congratulations are in order. The Flat River Historical Museum was voted a Reader's Choice for 2024 for the Daily News newspaper.
Right.
Because
really, we're more proud of the 5 state awards we received going back to 2022 up to last year. We were named the Outstanding Small Historical Society by the Historical Society of Michigan. And also one of our board members, Robin Walter, who really kind of heads up our education program. She won Educator of the Year from the same organization, Historical Society of Michigan. And then last year, another board member who does all our publicity, she was awarded Volunteer of the Year because she not only works with us, but also a consortium of museums called the Tri-River Museum Network. We're proud of those. Our Victorian Garden, which is outside our museum when we maintain, that won from the state of Michigan called Keep Michigan Beautiful, won the President's Award there.
My goodness. You guys are doing a lot of good things and
we're
getting
really proud of
recognized.
that.
So Greenville is on the map.
Yes, we are.
That is very cool. So congratulations all around to everybody involved.
Thank you.
You're most
It takes
welcome.
a team.
You bet. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yep.
Okay. Keith, can you share some captivating stories from Greenville's past that truly highlight its character?
Well, I guess I'd have to start with John Green. When he built his cabin down by the river, right where our museum is located, people started pouring into this area, and they would have small, like town, how many people would be, towns meetings there, and they would come up with their boots caked with mud and just totally cake up the floor with thick mud. So when the meeting was over, John and Deborah would have to pick up each board on the floor and take it down to the river and scrub the mud off and then return it and put it back in place on their dirt floor.
Oh, my goodness.
To me, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Our character, I think, would be exemplified by the Tower family and the entire ironwork companies. It started in 1874, and what kept them going for well over 100 years, they had the ability to adapt to changing market conditions. They even built their own electric company in 1908, which Greenville subsequently contracted to provide electricity for the city. They built sawmill machinery, even soda fountain equipment, furnaces, manhole covers, even built trucks here for about 6 years. Anything made of metal and needed metal fabricating.
Wow.
So for well over 100 years, a direct family descendant has been at the helm of the company. They're now known today as Tower Automotive, but the company moved to Kendallville, Indiana, and Elkton, Michigan in 2005. Another interesting character was Henrik Meyer. You probably haven't heard of the Meyer stores out in Utah, but around the Midwest, it's a huge network of stores. But Henrik Meyer came to Greenville, and he was a barber during the Depression. Well, he realized that people didn't need haircuts during the Depression, but they needed groceries. So he opened a small store in a vacant area near his barbershop. And he accepted relief orders from people on welfare. And he had a way of making people feel they were not looked down on. As a barber, he was the only one in town that would cut the hair of Black people. He set the pattern that was later copied by Walmart. When other stores sold hardware items along with groceries, they would all usually be two different areas in the store and separate checkouts. But Henrik Meyer set his store up by having hardware goods and groceries checking out the same cashier. And we have 3 of the very first wooden shopping carts used in that first store. And they are one of the first around to implement self-serve shopping.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that really characterizes what's been going on in our city.
Yeah, you've got a lot of wonderful history.
Yes, we do.
So you've mentioned John and Deborah Green and how they had to clean up the mud and take it down to the river, wash the boards. How did the town come to be? What pivotal moments in its history stand out to you?
Well, the reason it expanded so quickly, we are at the southern border of the vast white pine forest that extended north all the way up into the Upper Peninsula, too. The Flat River, which was known to the Indians as the Kabaquasha, and that's Odawa for meaning flat like a belt of wampum, because there were no waterfalls or rapids. And it goes north and south generally, but when it goes through Greenville, it swings east and west. And just on the north side of the river where the big pine forest started. So it wasn't long before lumbering became our major industry. And we're at the intersection of 2 major Native American foot trails that crisscross the state. And John and Deborah Green were the first white settlers here in 1844. And I'm sure John used the upriver trail to help lead him to Greenville to settle. 1 year later, just 1 year after he arrived, they needed to open up a school for 25 children. Hundreds of people poured into this area during the opening of the Erie Canal. People just flocked here. In 1855, a young Danish immigrant arrived, Christian Janssen, and he wrote a letter back to friends in Denmark about what a perfect place this was. So August Rasmussen arrived a year later. They wrote a letter home, and a year later, 36 more Danes arrived. So suddenly we have this large influx of Danish immigrants to the area, and every year more and more would arrive. Most worked in sawmills to earn enough money to buy farmland. And today we still celebrate that Danish heritage with our Danish festival in August. So by 1856, we're talking just 12 years after John Green arrived, we had a population of 1,000. We have 2 sawmills, a grist mill, 2 sash and blind factories, a tannery, a foundry, 6 general stores, 3 groceries, a hardware, a drugstore, a clothing store, a printing office, 2 hotels, 3 saloons, a furniture store, a wagon factory, and 3 blacksmith shops.
Wow.
Amazing. 10 years after that, 1866, we had our first log drive down the Flat River. So between 1866 and 1890, 34 years, they floated 1.8 billion feet of logs down the river to Greenville.
So Greenville was sort of like the center where it sawed all the logs that came in, or was it
a lot of them? Yes, actually, initially we were saturated with wood. We didn't need any more. They would float them back down to towns south of us, and eventually out to Lake Michigan. But in 1871, we had the big Chicago fire. And so that was a whole new market now. So quite often they would mill the lumber here and put it on barges and send it down the river and float it over to Chicago. Because our Flat River joins the Grand River, which ends up at Grand Haven, and then that connects to Lake Michigan.
So is that the business that John Green was in, was lumber and milling?
Yeah. Yes, that's what he started in. And actually, he only lived about, another 11 years. And he bought up a lot of the land here. And so he helped in the development of plotting the village.
That's
it became,
very cool.
Very soon became known as Green's Village, and then finally became Greenville.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. I'll bet he was so happy. And did Deborah live on after his demise?
She lived a lot longer, yeah. She lived into her 80s.
Very cool.
And the 2 photos we have shows John Green looking fairly young, and then there's Deborah. She looks very weathered. It looks like she really had a hard life, but I'm sure that was probably taken when she was maybe in her 80s.
Oh yeah,
or late 70s.
Yeah. So, what challenges does your society have with preservation?
It's probably common to just about every museum. Our number one challenge is having enough space to showcase our history. We're limited by the size of our building, and we don't have the storage space we really need. We have a railroad depot that was critical to the early development of our area, but unfortunately it's not located in an area that's easily accessible. If you're just walking down the street, it's about 4 blocks off the main intersection. And there's no location to move it closer to where people are generally shop or are driving, even if it was possible to move it. So that's like a challenge that we're looking that maybe we can do something with that depot. So we want to make sure it's preserved. And it's actually in really good shape. We took a tour of it. It has a full basement. I guess technically it belongs to the railroad, but I'm sure they would like to get it off their hands and give it to someone. It's too big to move.
That would make a great storage area.
Yep, it would. We do have a Eureka Township Hall next to our museum, and right now we're using that. But even that isn't big enough. So
yeah, that's not a real huge building.
No.
Okay. Keith, could you reveal some lesser known yet fascinating stories about your town that your organization highlights?
Well, most people are surprised to learn that we made trucks here, the Tower Truck Company, starting in 1915. We also had the Greenville Glove Company that also made Hush Puppy shoes, and that was shipped nationwide.
Oh, I remember Hush Puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our museum sits on the most historic spot in Greenville. A lot of people don't realize that. That's right where John Green built his first cabin. And just down on the river next to it is a sawmill. And we believe the building dates back to 1870 when it was a horse barn. Across the street was a huge sawmill, the Crosby Mill. They used horses to pull finished lumber to a lumberyard across the river by way of a tram. Well, J.T. Ridley later bought that barn and used it for cold storage as an egg emporium. In fact, one year he shipped out 40 railroad cars of eggs. Well, that barn burned in 1904, and he rebuilt it into its present shape in 1905. But however, the foundation, which is our lower level, is still the original foundation to that horse barn. So that could well be 150 years old or more. In the 1890s, a lot of people don't realize this, but we were considered the potato capital of the country. In 1896, we were also considered the refrigeration capital of the country. Ranny Refrigerator made wooden ice boxes with wood cut at its own sawmill, and they shipped it out with its own 40-car train. Gibson Refrigerator opened in 1908 and expanded Greenville's reputation for refrigeration. And Ranny Refrigerator continues its presence in Greenville, but it's now known as Marvell Refrigeration. We had the Moore Plow and Implement Company producing everything needed for agriculture, and they shipped to a wide area. We also had the Greenville Implement Company, which made agricultural implements as well, but they also made outboard boat motors and early types of wash machines. And we have these on display. And their outboard motors were shipped all over the world, actually. And then when Evinrude came out, that kind of took over the market. Some people know this, but it's still worth mentioning. During World War II, the Gibson Refrigerator plant manufactured wooden gliders used in the D-Day invasion of Normandy. School children from Greenville raised enough money to build 4 of these gliders, and one of those was nicknamed the Fighting Falcon. That was the name of the lead glider used in the D-Day invasion over Normandy. And you already interviewed the Fighting Falcon Museum. And
I did.
The whole museum is centered around that aircraft.
Yeah, wonderful place.
And then an interesting little known fact is that Greenville is the focus of one of those popular lumberjack songs in the country. It's called Jack Haggerty and His Flat River Girl, and is one of the very few humorous lumberjack songs. It centers around the blacksmith's daughter, Anna Tucker. Well, the Tucker family is directly related to Preston Tucker, the originator of the Tucker automobile. And the Tucker family still has relatives living here.
Nice.
So I think these are things that people wouldn't know unless they come to our museum and maybe talk to me.
I never dreamed that you guys were the potato capital of the United States. That's amazing.
That's the claim, as according to a magazine put up by the Paramarquette Railroad.
Wow.
Called Headlight Flashes. They would feature a town. So, yeah, we had a huge potato market on the north side of town.
Plus, it's very exciting. Any listeners, please just go to your favorite map app and take a look at the Flat River Historical Society and just take a look at the building. It's just beautiful. It's got stained glass. It's a wonderful architecture. They have pictures on the website of the building. They have historical photos of the building and how it evolved over time. It's exciting to me that Keith said that it's situated on the same property that John Green originally built his first cabin, and he started the town. Just amazing.
Yes, thank you. We're very proud of all that.
You should be. What inspired the founding of your organization, and what early experiences shaped its journey?
Well, this is pretty common, but people realize if there wasn't a repository for all the old artifacts that people were collecting relative to the early history of Greenville, they could easily be lost for all time. And so that was an impetus for starting this organization. And then eventually 6 years later, they acquired the building and started making that into a museum.
Wow, amazing. Now, Keith, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization.
Okay.
Your website is flatrivermuseum.org, and you're on Facebook. Just look for FRHS Museum, Flat River Historical Society Museum. And your address is 213 North Franklin Street, P.O. Box 188, Greenville, Michigan 48838. Your email is frhsmuseum@gmail.com. And the phone number is 616-754-5296. Does that all sound right?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Keith, how does your organization serve the community, and what are its primary goals and the demographics of its membership?
Well, our mission is to inform and excite people about our amazing history. We focus on Greenville, but our demographic coverage covers the Flat River area, primarily in Montcalm, Kent, and Ionia counties. We're open to the public on Saturdays and Sundays from 2 to 4:30, from the middle of April until Halloween. We also open an hour before a series of Thursday evening concerts in the summer, which take place in the park right across the street from the museum. And we also open for private tours all the time.
Fantastic. And do you do any tours of the downtown, or of the town, I should say?
I have done walking tours. I've done that a couple times with adults, and they really seem to enjoy it. Probably that's when about COVID hit, so that all kind of went away. Then I should start that up again.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of private tours in the museum itself.
Fantastic. Yeah, that park across the street is just beautiful.
Yeah, it has a splash pad, and it's right along the biking trail I was talking about, which was also a footpath for the Native Americans.
Wow.
So it's kind of neat that way. When you're riding your bike or hiking, you're walking on an old Indian trail, and there's a splash pad there. So the parking lot in the nice summer days is just packed. And so people who are doing that often stop by the museum too.
Oh, cool. Are there any Native Americans in the county still?
Oh, sure. One of our volunteers is part Native American.
Oh, fantastic. Do they have a tribal center or anything like that?
No. The closest center around us is up in Mount Pleasant, which is about an hour, 10 minutes away.
Oh, okay. Do you have a relationship with any of the tribes?
Oh, with them, yes, because I acquired a set of, it's kind of sounded gruesome, but Indian bones, part of a skull, a jaw, some along with arrowheads, arrow points to indicate, this was found by a collector and had it in a frame. So I contacted them to repatriate them, and we did that last fall. And it was quite a very moving experience. We got to take part in the reburial of these up in Mount Pleasant it's in Ojibwe or Chippewa land. Fantastic. So they were the closest ones. So I was really excited to be able to take part in that and get these properly buried.
That would be very moving. Great job.
Yes, thank you.
Keith, could you share your personal journey, how it led you to your current role in the organization?
Well, I became involved because I wanted to do research for the history of railroads. I was always kind of a railroad buff, and I wanted to know just what took place here. So at that time, I had already acquired a 2-projector computer-controlled slideshow system. And so I put together this, including music, telling the story of our railroads. But I had to go to the museum all the time to find out the history of the railroads. So that led me to joining the board of directors in the early 1980s, and I became president in 1987. But I left the board, I think around 1889, because I just got burned out. And because I was a retired band director, I wasn't retired then, I was still working full-time as a band and orchestra teacher.
Oh, yeah. 1989, you left the board?
Sorry, 1989.
Yeah.
I left the board around 1989.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I'm not that old. Close. But I was invited back on the board after I retired from teaching in 2012. And I was elected president in 2013. And at that time, we had very few people on the board, and we had very little revenue, and our future didn't look very promising. But I had the advantage of knowing a lot of influential people due to my job as a band director. So I went on a mission of recruiting people I knew who had strengths who would help grow our organization. But what really turned our society around was the orchestra teacher that I taught with at the middle school advised me that her good friend Robin Walter, a retired elementary school principal, was looking for something to get involved with. Well, once she joined the board, she recruited her former secretary, Judy Gager. And what a team we had. Robin had lots of ideas, still does, and enthusiasm, while Judy has great writing skills needed for our newsletters and newspaper publicity stories.
Cool.
Plus, Robin's husband, Marshall, he was a very good carpenter and did a lot of carpentry work for us.
Makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it?
It sure does. You get the right people, and I just I laugh. I just do what they tell me. I'm kind of the spokesperson, but they come up with all the great ideas.
Fantastic people. Just fantastic. Great story. Keith, it's time to take a break for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages.
Are you passionate about preserving history? Do you love your community and want to make a difference? Then listen up. The Flat River Historical Society and Museum in Greenville, Michigan, is calling all history enthusiasts and community heroes to join them. Located at 213 North Franklin Street, the Flat River Historical Society and Museum is the heart of Greenville's rich heritage. Step into the past with fascinating exhibits, interactive displays, and events that bring history to life. But they need your help. Become a volunteer and be part of something special. Whether you're a history buff, a student looking to gain experience, or simply want to give back, they have a place for you. Visit the website at flatrivermuseum.org to learn more about their mission, upcoming events, and how you can get involved. Follow them on Facebook at FRHS Museum for the latest updates and behind-the-scenes peeks. Ready to make history? Contact them today at 616-754-5296 or email frhsmuseum@gmail.com. Your donation matters. Together, let's preserve the past and inspire future generations. Join the Flat River Historical Society and Museum and be part of the story. Flat River Historical Society and Museum, where history comes alive. Visit them today.
Join us at the Flat River Historical Society and Museum. Your community, your history.
I'm a heartbroken raftsman, from Greenville I came. All my virtues departed with the lass I did fain. From the strong darts of Cupid I suffered much grief, and my heart's broke asunder, I can get no relief. Of my trouble I'll tell you without much delay, of the sweet little lassie my heart stole away. She's the blacksmith's fair daughter on the Flat River side, and I always intended to make her my bride. I work on the river where the white waters roll, and my name I've engraved on the high rocking shore. I'm the boy that stands happy on the dark purling stream, but my thoughts were on Molly, she haunted my dreams. I gave her fine jewels, the finest of lace, and the costliest muslins, all for to embrace. I gave her my wages, all for to keep safe. I deprived her of nothing I had on this earth. While I worked on the river, I earned quite a stake. I was steadfast and steady, and ne'er played the rake. For Cat Flat and River I'm very well known, and they call me Jack Haggerty, the pride of the town. She wrote me a letter which I did receive, and she said from her promise herself she'd believe, for to wed with another she'd long time delayed, and the next time I'd see her she'd no more be a maid. To her mother, Jane Tucker, I lay all the blame, for she caused her to leave and go back on my name. For to cast off the riggins that God was to tie, and to leave me a rambler till the day that I die. So come all ye bold raftsmen with hearts stout and true, don't trust to a woman, 'cause you're beat if you do. But if you do meet one with a dark chestnut curl, remember Jack Haggerty and the Flat River Girl.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Thomas Radcliff, and we're here today with Mr. Keith Hudson from the Flat River Historical Society and Museum in the great state of Michigan, located in Greenville. Keith, let's pick up where we left off, and welcome back.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Keith, what exciting events or exhibitions should the community keep an eye out for at your organization?
Well, we have 4 new exhibits within the last 2 years. And we also have, each year lately, we've been having a birthday party for our iconic Sandy. Sandy is a mechanical horse that for 1 penny you can ride it in any of the Meijer stores around. They donated that to us. And Sandy is going to turn 62 this year. That's coming up August 10th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. And we'll have games for the kids based on a horse theme. We'll have jugglers and goodies provided by Meijer. So it's a big celebration. And so we're also working to set up our own podcast, interviewing well-known families from Greenville and have them tell their family stories.
Oh, wonderful. What's it going to be called? Do you have a name?
No, we don't.
Okay.
So we have the equipment, and we did just a trial to see if everything worked. And so we're still in the works on that, of organizing it.
Oh, very cool. Do you have a date when it'll debut?
I wish we did, but no.
Okay.
Not yet.
So the theme is going to be oral histories.
Correct.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. And that'll be starting this year, or are you not sure?
We hopefully get going this fall.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Are you going to be the
a lot of names
host?
of people that we want to interview. Pardon?
Are you going to be the host?
No, we have 2 people. They both work for our newspapers, and they're very good with interviewing and speaking. So they're taking it over.
Oh, that's great. Keith, can you recount any particularly memorable visitor experiences or feedback?
Well, one day a lady came in that we all knew, and when she saw one of the photographs of the early days, horse-drawn plows, they were planting potatoes, and there's a little girl standing on one of the equipment machinery there, and she recognized it was her. It was a photo when she was a little girl. So we thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Another lady came in and saw our exhibit, either from our Meijer store exhibit or our general store, which we have upstairs, and saw all these Monarch brand canned vegetables. And she reminisced how often, that's all you would see anywhere, was a Monarch brand of vegetables back years ago. People view our exhibit on a man called Ole Amble. He was a much beloved traveling church pastor that served numerous congregations in the Danish areas of our county. And his photo would trigger stories of treasured, signed wedding certificates that they owned. One little boy came in, he was totally intrigued by the telegraph and the telegraph sounder. And just so happened, one of our docents, Larry Allman, is a telegrapher. So he spent a lot of time with him, helping him tap out his name and explain how everything works. So that was just really cool. We have some pictures of that.
Very cool.
But these are fairly common experiences we see. However, one that wasn't so common, Robin Walter, I mentioned earlier, remembered a lady along with her young son, Brady. Robin overheard her tell her son that John Green was her great-great-great-great-grandfather, and he was counting these out on his fingers, 5 times great. And that led Robin and Judy Gager to drive north to a small town called Entrecon to meet Vivian Hay, John Green's great-great-granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
So that was our first connection with a founding family descendant. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Huh. Still in the area. Very nice.
Yes.
Now, Keith, what kinds of exhibits can visitors currently explore at your facility?
Well, in the space we have, we highlight the important areas of our history and our growth as a city. We try to make our exhibits tell a story and be touchable or hands-on as much as possible. Our main floor has the exhibits detailing Greenville's history in chronological order, from the agencies to logging, Danish immigration, agriculture, industrial, and commercial businesses that made Greenville what it is today. We actually have the leg bone, a femur of a mastodon, And we even have hair from a woolly mammoth,
Oh,
thanks to our exhibit designer. In our Native American room, we have a real wigwam built by a Native American in all the traditional methods. On the opposite side of the room, we have a replica of a fur trading post, because Flat River was the most productive furring river for the fur trade in about the 1820s, 1830s in Michigan. We have several exhibit cases that change each year. I mentioned we are part of the Tri-River Historical Museum Network. That's a group of about 30 museums in our area that choose a common theme. And this year it was notable names. So our exhibit included showing people where some of our street names came from, who they were named after. And some of our downtown buildings have names carved on the top tier of the building. So the exhibit talks about who those people were. We also have another exhibit on the 60th anniversary of our Danish festival this year. In 2026 coming up, we'll change an entire room that is presently the interior of a train depot and create an exhibit based on the Gibson Refrigerator Company, because we have the very first electric refrigerator they made, and 3 of the very last refrigerators that came off the line that all the employees autographed. It'll mark the 20th anniversary of the plant closing. And of course, 2026 will be this country's sesquicentennial of its founding. So we'll have to do something with that too. Upstairs, a lot of people think that's our gem. It's like old time Main Street, maybe from the 1900, 1920, with period rooms or businesses lining the street, including a telegraph office, a living room, a doctor's office, a print shop, which includes not only the first newspaper printed in Montcalm County, I believe 1856, but also a newspaper that was the only Michigan newspaper written in Danish. Then we have a general store, a barber shop, eye doctor's office, clothing store, schoolhouse, and even a jail where kids can see who's in jail. And it's a mirror behind some bars. So they'll see themselves behind bars. Our lower level, which was at foundation of the horse barn I mentioned, includes 3 more period rooms, a carpenter shop, a harness maker shop, and a blacksmith shop. Down there, you can also see larger items, such as a collection of washing machines throughout the years. We also have a newly completed exhibit on Baldwin Lake, which sits right within our city limits, and its history of dance pavilions, ice houses, and swimming beaches. In that same exhibit, we have a display of our outboard motor that was made by the Greenville Implement Company. And the newest exhibit is a replica of the interior of a barn containing a lot of the antique farming implements, and including a motor, a gas-powered motor developed for farming, for driving some farm equipment produced by the Moore Implement Company. So 3 floors of some very interesting exhibits that outline our history and all the exciting things that happened here.
Well, your curator or whoever does the exhibits, your archivist, your curator, whatever you call them at the museum, exhibit designer, must be very busy.
He's great. A former student of mine, Mike Stafford, is an archaeologist, and he operates the Cranbrook Institute of Science. And Carl Mary is his exhibit designer. Well, they would come up and visit our museum and give us ideas on how we should organize our exhibits. And they just fell in love, especially Carl fell in love with our museum. And so we hired him to do our exhibits. It's just amazing, I think.
Well, we'll have to thank Carl. Officially, thank you, Carl.
Yeah. And he's now been hired to do the exhibits for the Danish Cultural Center, as well as an historical museum in Saugatuck. So,
now, Keith, are there parts of your collection displayed outside the museum, perhaps in other locations or traveling exhibits?
Matter of fact, we do. Our Victorian Garden is somewhat of an outdoor museum. We have a lot of large items that really wouldn't fit inside our museum. And we have them displayed along with a curatorial panel that talks about what they are. And plus in this beautiful setting of our Victorian Garden, which has a brick pathway. And the bricks in the pathway are from our Main Street that were put down in 1910. And when they were taken up, they're all put in a storage yard owned by the city. Well, we got several thousand of these, and that's how we made our brick pathway. So that's another kind of exciting thing that they're walking on. The bricks that were our main thoroughfare.
Wow. Walking on history. That's great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I've talked about this a little bit later, but our Victorian garden is also it has a working waterfall and like a corn crib used as like a little gazebo. And so people come there all the time for graduation photos and wedding photos. It's just a beautiful setting.
Nice. Keith, I asked this question of every guest. If your building were to catch fire, what things would you grab on your way out?
Well, I would first grab the original framed photographs of John and Deborah Green. And I'd grab her hair braid memento too.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to grab one of the original shopping carts from our early Meyer thrift market. And if I could carry it, I'd take my steam engine whistle from our railroad exhibit.
Cool. How big is a steam engine whistle?
Well, I'm thinking if I had it's fairly heavy. It's maybe 2-3 feet, not 3 feet, about 2 feet high, 2.5 feet.
Oh, wow.
But solid iron.
Oh, my gosh. Heavy then.
Yeah, if you're trying to carry that and other things that you're running from a fire. But that's what I would try to grab.
Okay.
Most other things maybe, hopefully, could be replaced, but some things never could. Actually, the Meyer company paid to have our museum have water sprinkling system installed.
Oh, that is
I don't know if
cool.
it's good or bad, but these things wouldn't burn. They might get ruined from water, but hopefully it would keep the building from going up in smoke.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that was very kind of them. That's great.
Yes, he's been very beneficial to our town.
Yeah.
We are store number one. He grew up here. Heinrich Meyer's son was Fred, and he played clarinet in the band, so that makes him extra special. That's what I play, too.
All right, great. Like Benny Goodman.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. What notable artifacts or records have been donated to your organization, and how do they enrich your collection?
Well, probably our most important collection of records is from Greenville's original historian, a former mayor, Wyman Bach. Without his notes, we really wouldn't know very much about our early history. He collected so many items that he donated, his estate donated when he passed away. Like we have an original Native American drum. I could just go on and on about all the stuff that belonged to him at one time. But his records, though, he wrote down everything that he could learn about when things were built, what was going on at different times in our history. He wrote a lot of speeches. He went around talking, and those were all typed out. So to me, that's our probably most valuable records that we have.
Are those available to the public so that they can read his writings?
Well, they are digitized. If people ask for them, I can send out, I can write from my own computer because I have those all loaded here at home too. They could send those out to anyone who want them. Our feeling is these don't belong to us. They belong to everybody. We are the caretakers. So if we can disseminate our information out to people who want to know, that's our job. And we do it without charge because it's so easy to just email things you already have digitized.
That's fantastic that you have it digitized. How is your organization approaching the digitization of its documents and photographs for future accessibility?
Well, originally I scanned most of the photographs of our early downtown buildings to keep on my home computer because I always get questions. What did this building have when it was first built? Or they just want to know what it looked like. Or new owners want pictures from years ago to put on their wall. So I did that, made it save me a lot of work from having gone to the museum all the time. And a few years ago, we had a board member who was active. She was worked in the library in town, but she scanned several drawers of our files. But then when the COVID hit and we had to shut down, 4 of us worked several hundred hours each, photographing and cataloging every item that we had stored in our upstairs period rooms and storage room. And then this year, a lady who spent her career as an archivist for various organizations and recently moved to our area called me out of the clear blue and asked could she volunteer to scan all our other files and help with accessioning new items. It's like, holy cow, how does this happen? She just kind of fell into our lap. It's like, you bet. She likes working by herself, so she goes down and just starts scanning drawer after drawer of things. We have a 27-inch iMac computer, and we use Apple's Numbers software for our inventory. We like this because we can add photographs of every item we catalog and list where it's located.
Oh, fantastic.
We looked at others, but they weren't Mac compatible, like Past Perfect. That was only available on Androids. Is that the right term? So we love Mac.
Okay, yeah.
And this does all everything we need. We can look up any item and find out where it's located, who gave it to us, and see a picture of it.
That's wonderful. Wonderful work, especially during the COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You got a lot done.
Thanks. And each winter when we shut down, we often go down and let's start working again on cataloging more things.
Wow. What percentage would you say you're completed?
Oh, boy. Probably between 40 to 50%.
Oh, that's cool. You're a lot further ahead than a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I could be exaggerating since I don't know everything that we have. I know the upstairs, though, like we have a haberdashery, a men's clothing store, and they had dressers just packed. Every drawer was packed full of things like old spats or gloves or things like that having to do with clothing. And like we didn't realize how much stuff we had in each room.
Yeah.
So that took a lot. Whereas down our main floor, we don't have that kind of like storage. So there's not a lot of things hidden away. What you see is pretty much what we have. But I would guess we must have more like 20,000 items total if we counted up everything.
Wow. That's a lot. You guys got a lot of work ahead of you.
It's hard to know exactly, but I'm just doing rough estimates.
Yeah. How is your organization funded, and what are your financial goals for the current year?
Well, we are an all-volunteer organization. No one gets paid, and we operate on donations. We have a very generous community foundation, the Greenville Area Community Foundation, that has given us grants to complete various projects, as well as one of our private citizens who has her own foundation, and she's been pretty generous to us. In 2018, we undertook a large capital campaign to redo our entrance ramp, including a new entrance door, and then help pay for all new exhibits on our main floor. And surprisingly, when we put our request in, they turned us down cold. So Robin and I went down to our local restaurant and thought we had drowned ourselves in misery. And I got a call, the Clear Blue, a former parent who had their kids in band. She says, "Hey, I want to give you guys $10,000.
Oh.
Like, holy cow, that kind of really perked our spirits up. And one of the members of the foundation board suggested, why don't we make a counter offer? How about asking for a matching grant? So we reapplied. We asked for a $150,000 matching grant. And that was the best thing that ever happened, because now we got the community involved, and we went around and raised people's interest in what we wanted to do. And we raised $350,000 in 1 year's time. But that includes that $150,000 from the community foundation.
Wow.
So a number of those people donated $10,000 and more to our campaign. We hope to soon have over $200,000 left in our foundation account, so we can generate enough interest to pay possibly for a part-time museum director. We have done golf outings in the past, but that raised a fair amount of money. Our museum building is owned by the city of Greenville, but we own the contents and we have to pay all utilities.
Okay, very cool. So they maintain the building. That's great.
Yes, Dave. So outside, if we need work done, they're usually fairly good about providing repair work.
Excellent. Yeah, having that partnership, that it makes all the difference in the world. What fundraising activities or opportunities are available to support your organization's mission?
Well, on a really small scale, we do have, based on our 50th anniversary, we have commemorative coins and patches for sale, as we have also stemless wine glasses with local historical engravings on them. And we have several small booklets for purchase. And in the past, we've produced several musical productions in our theater as a fundraiser, and these have always sold out. Like, for instance, we did a program with live music about transportation throughout our history, and we did a wedding dress show of period wedding dresses with high school students modeling them. Modern day adults now wouldn't be able to fit into them. So that's some of the stuff we've done. Otherwise, we get donations out of Clear Blue plus membership. It's very modest. We ask for $25 for a family membership each year, but usually they throw in extra as a gift.
Right. And what is your individual membership?
Individual membership is $15. Our family membership is $25, and business memberships are $50. Try to keep it modest and make it affordable for everyone to help just support us.
Okay. And people can join right from your website, right?
Yes, they can. They can pay with a credit card or PayPal. Makes it very easy. Surprisingly, most people still prefer to send in a printed form with a check.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Whatever works.
Do people get other benefits for joining?
We do send them our newsletter.
Okay, fantastic.
So if we have their email address, we'll do it by email. If they just send a check-in with their street address, we'll print these off and send them out.
What's your newsletter called?
The Logmark.
And how often is it published?
Try to do it 4 times a year.
Okay.
Judy Gager, I mentioned her before. She's the one who puts that all together, and they look fabulous.
Fantastic. What annual festivals or events does your organization host, and what role do they play in your community?
Well, we have our Danish Festival each year. That's in the 3rd weekend of August, and we participate in the Grand Parade. We often enter like an antique car or antique truck with board members carrying a banner in front saying who we are. And we have a mascot too. We bought a costume last year, one of those big ones. You put the big head on, and one of our board members wears that. We call it Jack the Lumberjack.
Oh, cool.
He kind of goes right along with them.
That has to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. We have them when the kids come too for education programs. We usually have him show up, and kids can say hi to him.
Jack the Lumberjack. That's great.
Yep. And we have a birthday party, as I mentioned, for the Meyer horse, Sandy. We have had Victorian teas at the museum the last couple of years, where people dressed up wearing fancy hats, and they had enjoyed treats, the tea, and it was always a program too. And both years we did this. We had a string quartet on our porch playing for them. That was really cool. We also have a Grandparents' Day in February, sometime in September. There we open up our period room so children can get pictures of them and their grandparents, such as their grandmother sitting in a barber chair and their grandchild's pretending they're cutting their hair, or they're selling them goods behind the counter at our general store. So it's kind of a photo op. Then coming up 3 days before Halloween or near Halloween, we transform our upstairs at Main Street, USA, into a real spooky little town we call Fright Night. And it's really well done. A lot of people think, geez, they spend $30 to go to Grand Rapids. They thought ours was better. But for just $5, they can walk through this area, or little kids can watch Halloween Bugs Bunny cartoons in our movie theater. And then we offer cider and donuts outside in our Victorian garden. And then Halloween night, we open up, we call it Trick or Treat at the museum. We have volunteers dressed up in costume on all 3 floors, and they hand out candy. Last year, we had over 500 visitors between children and their parents.
That is fantastic. Do you charge an admission at the museum?
No. We do take donations, and we try to point that out. If they feel inclined, they're welcome to, but there's no charge.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a wonderful night that must be on Halloween. That's great.
Yeah, it really is. We were just floored. We had so many people last year. That was the most we've ever had.
Fantastic.
It kept us scrambling. It makes it fun. When you have a lot of people, the time just flies by.
Yeah. Do you give out refrigerator magnets or anything?
No, we don't.
Okay. That might be something good, so they can stick it on their refrigerator and it reminds them to go to the museum on Halloween next year.
Not a bad idea. I'll have to take that into consideration.
Yeah. Keith, it's time for another break for a few minutes.
Very good.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after a short break.
Attention, history lovers and community champions. Your support is needed at the Flat River Historical Society and Museum in Greenville, Michigan. Located at 213 North Franklin Street, the museum is a treasure trove of Greenville's rich heritage, showcasing artifacts and stories that connect you to your past. But preserving history requires your help. Your donation today can ensure that future generations continue to experience and learn from the exhibits. Visit flatrivermuseum.org to discover how your contribution makes a difference. Follow them on Facebook at FRHS Museum to see the impact of your support in action. Every dollar counts. Whether it's a one-time gift or becoming a sustaining donor, your generosity keeps the doors open and the exhibits alive. Join them in preserving Greenville's history. Contact them at 616-754-5296 or email them at frhsmuseum@gmail.com to learn more about how you can make a difference. Your donation matters. Together, we can ensure that the Flat River Historical Society and Museum continues to educate, inspire, and connect the community.
Visit us today at the Flat River Historical Society and Museum, where history comes alive.
Come on, man. You're listening to Preservation Oaks on MicroStream Radio. If you enjoy the show, then please tell all your friends, family, neighbors, pals, business associates, colleagues, and maybe a couple of enemies about the show. Stay tuned for more episodes at preservationoaks.podbean.com. We thank you so much for spreading the love.
Hola. Si es nuevo en los Estados Unidos o es de ascendencia hispana, querrá ser voluntario y apoyar a su sociedad histórica o genealógica local. ¿Por qué? Porque ahora eres parte del tejido de Estados Unidos, y estas sociedades quieren ayudar a contar tu historia familiar y tu historia. Si desea que su cultura se conserve como parte de nuestra historia estadounidense, eche un vistazo a su área y conéctese con su sociedad local. Estarás contento de haberlo hecho. Gracias.
You're tuned in to Preservation Oaks. Stream us from wherever you get your podcasts. We're with you anywhere you go.
Sometimes the most commonplace artifact triggers the most heartfelt memories. The museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical and genealogical societies within our communities have responsibility for preserving these artifacts so they can be used to educate each new generation about their own past. They are the gatherers and caretakers of the stories of our history, culture, and heritage. Sharing the lessons of history fosters an understanding of the fundamental knowledge of why things work the way they do. Once armed with a knowledge of their place in history, people have a much higher success rate as they build the future. Our values and ideals are rightly influenced by those who came before us. On each episode of Preservation Oaks, our guests share key information about these core organizations and history. You'll learn about the great work they do, what their needs are, their goals, and why you can feel really confident about the future by volunteering and supporting them. Join us wherever you get your podcasts, and then follow, comment, like, and listen.
History. Community service. And it's right here. Preservation Oaks. The podcast that always has something new. All day, every day, all night, every night. It's accessible, reliable, immediate, and up to the minute. The minute you want it. Preservation Oaks on preservationoaks.podbean.com. Turn to us for your daily taste of history and community service. Keep on giving, and keep on living the good life.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. We're here today with Keith Hudson, the president of the Flat River Historical Society and Museum in Greenville, Michigan. Keith, I really want to thank you for being here with us today and for sharing the information about your organization and Greenville. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Keith, how does your organization engage in community outreach and educational programs?
Well, civically, we have collaborated with our Downtown Development Authority. We designed 4 interpretive boards that are placed downtown so people can see what each block looked like 100 years ago or so. We also collaborated with our Chamber of Commerce by participating in downtown events. And our Chamber of Commerce awarded us the Spirit of Collaboration Award in 2018. With schools, Robin Walter is our education director, because being a former principal, she knows a lot of people. But we collaborate with our schools, private and public, by presenting programs. This spring, we had 274 students and chaperones from the high school, 9th grade history classes. They came on a tour. 3rd graders, we do programs on Native American history and the fur trade. We show a short PowerPoint program. And then after that, we have many stations set up for hands-on activities, such as handling the furs, trying on a bearskin coat, try on a Native American cradle board, grind corn, crack nuts, taste maple sugar. And they each can take home a craft that they made, such as corn cob darts or a shell necklace. For 4th grade students, we offer a program on lumbering. After watching a short program, PowerPoint, we then have them go to different stations to learn about, say, the music that was often sung at the music lumber camps, try their hand at a crosscut saw, carry water as a camp cookie. That's the name of the cook's helpers. And they would use a wooden shoulder yoke, so you get an idea of how heavy that would be. Also use a log mark stamp to stamp the ends of the logs, depending on what logging company you were working for. And they learn how to measure a log to determine how many board feet of lumber is in a log. They learn what a board foot is. And they learn how a stump puller works. For 2nd graders, we often go into the classrooms to show them important historic highlights of their town. That's all part of their curriculum. And as I mentioned, for adults, I have given history of walking tours, taking them downtown. And I had a portable little speaker that I could wear in a little microphone, but then I took along blown up photographs so they could see what the buildings looked like that they were looking at 100 years ago.
My goodness, you do a lot. And those are wonderful activities.
Yeah, we're excited about our history.
Okay.
And tell you that Mike Stafford I was telling you about, he's the one who really got me fired up. He is so enthusiastic. He used to come up and do independent study with high school students, and they go along Wabasas Creek, which I earlier mentioned, and do digs where Native Americans camped and went because they'd come up fishing in the summer. And one was right across the street from me. And then I just impressed, but he'd get visitors up all the time and ask the same question over and over. But his enthusiasm never died. He was just excited to talk about this over and over and over. And hearing that enthusiasm is contagious, and it's got me very enthused. And people mention that when I'm working at the museum. We have a couple of people that say, boy, we can see you guys are excited about this. And it rubs off. They get excited about it too.
Oh, yeah. You have a bear skin coat?
Yes, we have a couple of those actually.
Oh, that's amazing.
They're really heavy. Boy, they'll keep you warm.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great. Great work. I'm excited just hearing about it.
We try to keep it as relevant as possible, to make it relevant to their lives.
Yeah, very cool. Especially in the 21st century when their hands, their minds are in the computer all the time, right?
You got it. Yep.
Yeah, to get out and really get their hands on something tactile,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Keith, what volunteer opportunities are available for community members looking to get involved?
Well, we place volunteers wherever they would like to be. We have a number of opportunities. They could be greeters, welcoming people into the museum. And then they give them like an overview of our layout. They could be docents, talking about the different exhibits on 3 different floors, so they can pick what floor they like to be on. And then we give them some documents pointing out things in more detail if people ask questions. And that all, again, that depends on their preference. And if they enjoy working with school children, we use good 10 to 12 volunteers for each of our educational programs. And these go on for 4 days for each grade. If they like working with their hands and prefer gardening, we always can use extra help in the spring and the fall sprucing up our Victorian garden. And we have an important volunteer who helps recruit volunteers and trains them if needed and schedules them to work. Last spring, we actually got the volleyball team from our local community college, Montcalm Community College. They came out and helped clean up our garden. And it was amazing. They were a big help.
Fantastic.
We're kind of old, and obviously the Victorian garden is on different levels, different tiers, and so it involves a lot of climbing up and down.
Very cool. Something for everyone.
Yes.
And so you can work with school groups. I noticed on your website there was a place on the website that if you wanted to volunteer, it had a whole list of things that were opportunities that if you wanted to help, here's sort of some of the categories that we'd like help. And you could actually select it and then submit, and people would contact you.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Very nice. Now, you mentioned that you're part of the Tri-River organization. How do you collaborate with other civic, historical, or museum organizations at various levels?
Well, locally, we work as close as we can with the Fighting Falcon Military Museum. We gave them all our military objects we had before they opened. Like we had part of the wing to one of those gliders. And so anything military, it belongs to you. And that freed up more space for us to do other things. And the Danish Cultural Center, I had a good friend who started that as a museum too. And so anything we thought we could afford to donate, we gave to them too. And they call us like what our policies, like for accessioning things. So we collaborate that way on giving them our knowledge that we've learned over the years. And also we have used our museum. They do a Danish kids camp. That was one of the things they came over to our garden and found look like a treasure hunt, sort of looking for little gnomes, Danish gnomes placed throughout the garden.
Oh, cool.
We tried to collaborate with that. So we do try to work with our city as much as possible. Anytime we can get involved, we do. And we work close with our Chamber of Commerce. In fact, we're going to meet with the head of it to talk about ideas we have for that depot I mentioned. We think maybe that could be a venue for maybe music, small music concerts, or different events that could be hosted there.
Oh yeah, you can do a lot with the building of that size, and especially depending on the architecture. If the architecture inside is in any way unique or original, you could make it into something very beautiful.
Yeah, hopefully. It is built with a lot of small rooms in it. It has two different waiting rooms. Actually, one was for women and one was for men. So men could use their spittoons. Smoke
cool.
Their cigars.
Keith, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization once again. You can go to the website at flatrivermuseum.org. You can find them on Facebook at FRHS Museum. Their address is 213 North Franklin Street, P.O. Box 188, Greenville, Michigan 48838. You can email them at frhsmuseum@gmail.com, and you can phone them at 616-754-5296. Keith, what features or resources can visitors explore on your organization's website?
Well, actually, we're going to be changing our current website look because we're going to be using a new host, and they're working right now on how to set that all up. Cool. But they can see a lot of different photos if they explore around the website, and you can even take a digital tour of each floor. And you can, like a lot of realtors use this now, you can go online and look up the interior of all these houses, and you can look around by moving a little, I don't know if you call it a cursor, but some type of icon. And actually a guy who does this for realtors, he donated his time because he wanted to do this for us. So each floor you can explore right from your home computer.
Very cool, very cool. When is the new website due to be released, or do you want to announce that?
We have no date. They're still working on it. They say it'll happen.
Okay,
hopefully soon.
So there's a lot you can do on the website, and you can also donate from the website, and you become a member from the website. And like we've mentioned, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
What strategies are you using to attract and involve young talent and their skills in your volunteer efforts?
Well, that's a very good question, because we're always thinking about that too. Whenever we have our high school students do a group tour, we always talk about opportunities for them if they'd like to get involved. Because some of them, they're interested in history. They want to go on working at being a history teacher or become involved in museums when they get older. It's mostly just offering opportunities for them to get involved presently with the museum and show our enthusiasm for being at the museum and what we offer as far as a history to get them excited about the background of where they grew up in.
Fantastic. You mentioned to me earlier when we were talking that your board has a lot of variety in terms of the ages of the board members.
Yes, we purposely look for people, different ages, of course. The problem is that people who have the most time are retired, because we can spend a lot more time doing a lot of the footwork up there. But some people younger, they're still working, can offer a lot of different skills. Like one of them, we have a plumber. So he is really helpful in fixing any problems we have in that regard. Plus, he's also president of the Lions Club, so he likes being in leadership positions. We have two people who worked in the newspapers, and they're very good at communicating with the media. And like I mentioned, they're the ones to be doing our podcast. So they have new ideas that we don't even think of. In fact, that's how we got our idea for having a mascot in the parade.
Oh, very cool.
So we try to have a variety of ages that are going to be constantly evolving, and we're going to be around for a long time because of that.
Keith, how do you believe we can inspire the current generation to stay engaged with history and community support?
Well, I think if we show them how you can make history come alive, make it exciting and relevant to our current lives, they'll be more open to involvement. The important thing is to show your passion for your local history. As I mentioned, passion and excitement can be contagious. Point out aspects of our past that will give you a reason to be proud of the place you grew up, your local heritage.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. In what ways does your organization uniquely contribute to the community, and why is its role so crucial?
Well, I feel Greenville has so many attributes that make it a great place to live and raise a family. We have a forward-thinking city administration and city council. We are situated in a beautiful setting with a flat river flowing through it and 3 lakes within the city limits. I like to think that we provide a value-added resource. When people learn what came before them to make Greenville what it is today, you just feel prouder to be living in this area. When you walk down the street downtown, you just now have a better perspective, appreciation, and deeper respect for where you are and where things came from. It just makes you proud to be a Greenville resident.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great place. It's a great place. Go on the Map app, listeners, and just take a look at Greenville, Michigan. It's a beautiful place. Now, Keith, if resources and volunteers were unlimited, what new priorities and goals would your organization pursue, and how would it transform your operations?
Well, if we really had unlimited funding and volunteers to help do the work, we have that Eureka Town Hall that has suffered some water damage when the roof was replaced. And so we're using it just for storage space. But we would like to, though, if we had our preference, spend a lot of money and almost practically re-gut it and use it not only just for storage, but also an additional exhibit space, and make it possibly as a small venue for people who want to have a small meeting room for groups. We'd also love to do something with that depot that I mentioned. If money was not an issue, we'd like to do something to make that so it's going to be here for a long time, make it relevant to this town.
Yeah, because those depots, while they are dotted around the country, and I have interviewed several historical societies that have preserved depots, the bottom line is they don't make those anymore, and they are architecturally wonderful.
Yeah, and they're crucial to the town. That's how they shipped goods out. How people came into the city and traveled around to get to Detroit or even down to Belding to play baseball games. That's how they traveled.
Yeah, they were strictly utilitarian. Not many of them. I don't recall. I think there was one that had a mural in it, but only one.
Yeah. They're pretty bare bones.
Yeah. Now, Keith, is there any other additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
Well, I'll just be a cheerleader. And there's a reason why our museum has won 5 state awards recently. The quality of our exhibits can rival anything you'll see in Grand Rapids, just on a smaller scale.
Yep.
And Greenville has such an amazing history. Stop in and see it for yourself. We have exhibits that I feel will amaze you. So many people come in and they had no idea. They're used to the old traditional museums with just showcases and just stuff put in them with no story behind it. And me, I lose interest real quick when I see that. You know, you get overload with, say, 100 medicine bottles from some pharmacy in town. You see that in some places.
Yeah, plus you get 100 questions and no answers.
Yeah. The exhibits have to tell a story. There has to be a reason why they're there.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. Keith, how do you believe your members, volunteers, and the community perceive the value and benefits your organization provides?
I think we have a very fine reputation for our exhibits and our contribution to the quality of life in Greenville. People feel good about donating to us because they see the results of how we have used their support. We try to maintain a mix of ages on our board so people can see that we plan to be here for a long time. I believe we have done a good job of ensuring the future of the Flat River Historical Society by involving younger people and having them ready to take over the helm when it's time.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith, I want to thank you for being our guest today and for sharing all about the Flat River Historical Society and Museum. You've got a great organization, some great people there, and just a beautiful history. I had a great time. I hope you have as well. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. I really enjoyed being here. I just love being part of this podcast. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Keith Hudson, the president of the Flat River Historical Society and Museum. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. Hey, thanks for tuning into this enlightening episode of Preservation Oaks. Today we had the distinct pleasure of hosting Mr. Keith Hudson, a venerable figure from the Flat River Historical Society and Museum, nestled in the heart of Greenville, Michigan. Keith's enthusiasm for Greenville's history is truly infectious. He's a dedicated, intelligent, knowledgeable, and capable individual who generously shared many captivating stories about the area's unique beauty and historical significance. It's been an absolute honor to have Keith on the show and to learn about the remarkable museum at the core of Greenville. Keith's deep passion for trains and local history is palpable, and it's a very special coincidence that this episode is being released on a very special day, Keith's 78th birthday. Happy birthday, Keith. We are thrilled to celebrate with you and grateful for the wealth of knowledge you've shared, especially the Native American legend from the local area that adds so much depth to our understanding of Greenville's heritage. One of the top priorities for the Flat River Historical Society and Museum is preserving the Greenville Railroad Depot. They are diligently working with governmental and railway entities to make this a reality, but they need our community's support and donations to see this important project through. The Society has also earned numerous awards from the Historical Society of Michigan and other prestigious organizations, a testament to their exceptional work in the community. These accolades are well deserved, and the Flat River Historical Society truly merits our support and congratulations for their outstanding contributions. However, the Society does face challenges. They need additional storage space. If you have any space to donate, please connect with them to help preserve Greenville's history. Another pressing need is the renovation of the Eureka Town Hall building. If you possess skills in roofing, construction, or contracting, your expertise would be invaluable in transforming this building into a community meeting place. Keith's passion for history is matched by his dedication to preserving it for future generations. He once acquired a set of Native American human remains and worked with the tribe to ensure they were repatriated and properly reburied in a tribal ceremony, showcasing his deep respect for cultural heritage. Excitingly, the Society will be launching their own oral history-focused podcast this fall, focusing on the stories of Greenville families. I encourage everyone to tune in. It's bound to be a fantastic series. The museum itself is a treasure trove with several floors of exhibits featuring replicas of historic streets, shops, and period rooms, filled with artifacts from Greenville's past. Their website even offers virtual tours of these exhibits, making history accessible to all. The museum's Victorian garden is another highlight, having won awards for its beauty. The bricks in the garden are original historic bricks from the town's main street, adding a tangible connection to Greenville's past. A special shout-out goes to Wyman Bach, a former mayor of Greenville, who kept meticulous records of the town's history, greatly enriching the community's knowledge of its storied past. Keith Hudson is truly a fountain of knowledge about Greenville and its surroundings, and his enthusiasm for sharing this knowledge is inspiring. He's committed to ensuring that the children of the area understand and appreciate their heritage, a rare and commendable quality. Keith and the Society's members and volunteers are currently cataloging the artifacts in their possession, a monumental task that requires additional volunteers. If you have time and talent to offer, your contribution would be greatly appreciated. Looking ahead, the Society is working on implementing a new website, so stay tuned for updates. They're also actively seeking to engage students from local high schools and colleges. If you're a student with an interest in history or community service, the Society offers a fun and enriching opportunity to get involved. Greenville is a fantastic place to live and raise a family, with a forward-thinking city administration and city council, beautiful settings, and a river and lakes within its limits. The Flat River Historical Society adds tremendous value to the community, helping residents feel a deeper pride and respect for their town. The quality of the exhibits at the museum rivals those found anywhere else, and each exhibit tells a story that will leave you amazed. The Flat River Historical Society is renowned for its efforts to enhance the quality of life in Greenville, and they are undoubtedly succeeding. Thank you once again to Keith Hudson for joining us and sharing his passion for Greenville history. We hope this episode has inspired you to support the Flat River Historical Society and Museum and to delve deeper into the rich history of Greenville, Michigan. One last time, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization. You can reach them at their website at flatrivermuseum.org. You can find them on Facebook at FRHS Museum. Their address is 213 North Franklin Street, P.O. Box 188, Greenville, Michigan 48838. You can email them at frhsmuseum@gmail.com, and you can phone them at 616-754-5296. If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the organization via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in the area the organization serves and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the organization is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer their members and the public. I think you'd agree with me that the Flat River Historical Society and Museum is truly one of our preservation oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Pat Garvey singing Jack Haggerty, Flat River Girl, Of Shane, Track Tribe, Max Co Music, Akash Gandhi, Cymbalbird, and Scott Holmes. Microstream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit us at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by Microstream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of Microstream Radio. Thanks to everybody for listening. Stay curious and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. This is Sean Radcliff. We'll see you all next time on Preservation Oaks. And until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.